there, they were like, well, I'm buying this. Well, it's because I get it cheaper. And I'm like, well, then it ain't going to score worth a shit because the fibers aren't long enough. But anytime you get into somebody wanting to run coated two-side material, you're going to have an issue. Most C1S stock, where you have coated one side, uncoated the other side, most of that material is going to have the longer grain in it because that's typically, C1S is typically for packaging. So therefore it's got a little bit longer grain. Unless you get into the heavy recycled C1S, then it's going to have a shorter grain just because of the recycle process. You don't want to pay for virgin, it costs too damn much. But I will tell you, C2S versus C1S, the C1S will always fold better because it has a longer grain in it.
So for this material, which is 12 point,
Yep.
this is a long grain material. The grain is like
Yep.
in this one. So these cracks,
It could be
The
because of that
reason-
grain direction.
it
But
could be the
But it's also
Grain.
because it's C2S. It's not like if this was 12 point C1S, because the inside of the box doesn't matter. So if you were doing a 12 point C1S, the grain's going to be longer, so therefore it'll flex better. But grain direction does matter. You're always going to crack more, cross grain than you will with
Cross.
the grain because you're not pulling it this way, you're folding it
yeah,
this
we
way.
are cracking the grain. So
But that's what you.
and
but
another
I-
reason for this one can be the thickness, right?
Well, because of how that die is made. Because so you've got a channel that's that big for paper that thick. So when it comes out, it's going to give a nice, clean, crisp score. Well, if you put paper that's this thick, it don't get a good score because it can't squeeze that position enough to give that score. So that's where this is the problem. You've got, because this is supposed to be on what, 20 point?
18, I think, or
18?
20, 22.
Okay.
It's more than 18.
So you're almost half the thickness of what that metal plate's made for your matrix. So that's part of your problem.
And being crooked is one of the
that
reasons.
can be part of it because you're not getting a good enough, deep enough score to actually hold that angle. Plus, these are all make-readies when we were moving stuff around, so we were playing with register and all that. So that can just depend where we're at in that process of whether we were straight.
So
to
regarding the C2S and C1,
I would, for a folder gluer, it's always better to run C1S.
what parameter does exactly affect the folding quality?
Well, grain direction.
No, for the C2 and C1, what is the difference?
Well, so see how you got coating here?
Yeah.
See how you have coating here?
Yeah,
C1S doesn't have that coating.
Okay.
So it's raw on the other side. Remember, did you guys see that piece that
So you
Sam
mean
brought
the
out to me,
coating-
that one package to see if we could do that small of a package?
No.
That was C1S and they printed on the uncoated side. Because just to give it a different look.
Uh-huh.
But anytime you're doing folding gluing, if you can run C1S, it's going to perform better.
So you mean the coating can affect the folding quality?
It'll also affect.
And it would be better that we print on the uncoated side?
No. Print on the coated side. But the thing you run into, the folds are going to be better. That C1S stock is basically designed for
Uh-huh.
packaging. So therefore it functions better.
And on the
Because
other hand,
they're not gonna waste all the money putting coating on two sides because you're only gonna see this side. This side's either gonna glue to something or it's gonna fold over and glue to itself. And in that grain's longer and they're not sealing it off, so your glue gets better penetration. But anytime you can get away with C1S,
Oh, okay.
anytime you can get away with C1S, it's gonna perform better everywhere.
and on the other side, the difference between the hot glue and cold glue, if you explain it regarding...
So hot glue is basically technically a wax, that melts at different temperatures. So hot, it's going to set on the surface. Okay, it's not going to penetrate. So it's bonding to whatever the surface is. So if this is a coated two sides, the first thing it's going to release on this paper is the coating, because you're not in the fiber, so it's going to let the coating go. Water-based, is part of the chemistry in which you make paper. So that water is going to dissolve that coating and penetrate through into the fiber. And if you're running an uncoated side to it, it's definitely going to penetrate that. So that glue actually penetrates and becomes part of the paper. That's why you'll get a better bond for cold storage and stuff like that. So even though the moisture's messing with it, it's actually ingrained into the paper, where the hot melt is on the surface, and as soon as that coating lets go, it's not sticking anymore. So that's why I typically use cold when you're doing cold storage, refrigeration, anything like that, because the cold will hold it, where the hot only bonds.
What
to
is the
surface.
advantage of hot melt versus the body?
It's done instantly.
You're
So when
drying
you're
hot,
running
you don't need even
You
to
don't
have
need
that.
all this stuff. You don't need a compression. You don't need all that stuff. You just got to hit it with some rollers, crush it, and once it's cool, it's ready
So
to
if
go.
the folding, if the carton doesn't go to a fridge or to a humid atmosphere, it's better to run it.
Yeah,
with
if you're gonna
hot melt, right?
stick a package that's in like just on a shelf or something like that, hot all day long. But if you're gonna stick something that's gonna go into cold storage, in and out of cold storage, you're gonna want the cold. Now they do make hot glues that bond that well, but the problem with it is it's not very friendly to work with.
You were saying what was the name? It's not the fugitive one.
Well, it's a basically a stay soft. It never gets hard.
then it's a
It stays
fugitive.
flexible. So it is kind of a fugitive, but it's not a release fugitive. It's a bond to everything, no matter what fugitive. And if you run plastic to plastic, stuff like that,
With the laminate.
you're gonna need it because that's what makes it bond. And it does stick. It works. But it is not a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, like synthetic material, synthetic sheet.
Exactly.
Magic was this design.
But yeah,